webinar with guest presenter Christina Jones, who's with us from Black Digital, Black Digital, I should say. So welcome to Christina and welcome to you all. So bear with us, we're just going to wait a couple of minutes for people to come online, and we'll get cracking in a couple of minutes. So if you can bear, if you want to get a cup of tea actually while we're waiting for a minute or two, that would be great.
Otherwise, am I going to cause chaos because I can't see the chat box? It's always really useful to know what businesses people are in.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea actually. Yeah. So Alice says thank you. Yeah. So guys, if you can say where you're from and what business you're in, that would be really good, because then you know, as Christina has just said, it's really helpful to us to understand what businesses you're in, so that we can kind of make points that are relevant to your businesses. So if you can, and then you get
bonus brownie points for coming on first, so you get some personalized content.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So, and just so that everyone, you know, Alice and Maria, if you can just tell us you can hear us okay. So both Christina and I are on. You can probably see me, and you should be able to see Christina's PowerPoint presentation. So if you can just let us know as well whether you can see that or not, that would be super duper. Great stuff. So graphic design and wedding stationery, that's Maria from Creative Edge. Thank you, Maria. Thank you for that. And guys, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, please just pop it in the chat. And what I will do is I will relay it to Christina at various points, so that she, you know, we can ask her. So Maria can hear us. That's great. Hi, Emma. Hi, Jess. How are you? Great to have you here. Jess was on last week. She was the guest presenter last week, so thanks so much for coming back this week. Yeah, Alice said it's great. And then Alice says she works at Appetite for Seduction, a small company that does cooking classes for couples. Sounds great. I think I need to go there.
Oh, you see, now this is on my list. Because, and I think this is, it's like one of the best opt-in headlines ever on the Appetite for Seduction website. Emma told me I've got to be quite well behaved and keep it relatively clean. But if you go and look at the website, you'll see what I mean. It's fab.
Okay, right. I'll have to have a look at it.
I really want to participate. So
that sounds great. I'm gonna actually, Alice, you might just share the website so we can all have a look there, actually, because I'm intrigued now. So that sounds fantastic. Hi, Jolene. Jolene is on from 90 Day Year as well.
Oh, hi, Jolene.
So welcome everyone to the webinar tonight with our lovely guest presenter, Christina Jones. So really delighted to have Christina here this evening to talk about retargeting, which I'm super interested in, and I think you guys are as well. So Alice is laughing here saying, haha, okay. So Maria is saying, when people email me making inquiries, I feel that I maybe need to finish with a question to encourage conversation. Am I right? Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I would add in, make sure then that because they're probably emailing you having come through your website in the first place, and what we're about to talk about means that you can, you know, not just kind of keep the email conversation going on, but you can just magically stalk them across the internet. So that's actually a really good example. So thank you very much for dropping that in right at the very beginning of really practical use. So I'm going to come back to that later on in the talk.
Great, and I'm loving the fact that, you know, Christine is a stalker and is encouraging us all to be stalkers on the internet, which is really great, yeah. And if I can just share as well, actually, I'm going to share Christina's 2 websites. It is 2, isn't it? Or do you have more? I always get confused.
Yeah, more and more, and actually a brand new one as of this week. But I will talk about that, but not mention. Well, I'm trying with that one to go dark, so I'm not sending any sort of friends or anything to do with the marketing business to it, because I want to see what a absolutely brand new e-commerce website, you know, with sort of as if I was sort of Joe Blogs. Okay, so that's the test for that.
That's an interesting one to do. So, guys, maybe you can help her out.
Do you want me to explain a little bit of it? Do you want me to do a bit of an intro? Okay, actually, perfect.
Do you know what I might do is actually, just because some more people just jumping on there, and I might just introduce you, and maybe if you want, you can get chatting. Would that suit? Because it's nearly 9:05, so it would probably be great if, you know, just introduce you properly, and you can get chatting. Would that be all right, Christina?
Yeah, no, that sounds lovely. Go for it.
Great stuff. So welcome everyone. I'm Emma Darcy, if you haven't met me before, and I'm from M&D Marketing, and I'm a business and marketing consultant. Many of you know me, but just for those of you that don't. And I have been having a series of guest presenters come on that are talking about, various topics that are of relevance to us all in business. So we had a Twitter workshop. Last week we had DIY website. And tonight we have retargeting, which I'm super interested to find out about from Christina Jones. So Christina is a fantastic lady from the UK, and she is going to explain to us tonight all about retargeting. So basically, when people come to your website, well, I'm giving the simplified version, and they disappear, and it's a case of, well, where are they gone? Why aren't they coming back? Why aren't they buying from us? And so that's a very simplified version. So Christina is going to elaborate on that and how we can retarget those customers and to help us to do that. So I'm super excited to have Christina here this evening, and I'd like to welcome her and say thank you very much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emma. Before I dive straight into the content, I know some of us have met in the past or online, but for some of you, you'll be wondering, who the heck is this girl posing with a horse on the PowerPoint? So my name's Christina Jones. I run a company called Black Type Digital, which is an online marketing agency specializing in the horse industry. So we're a Google partner agency. So the stuff I'm going to talk about today, although I implement it mainly in my day job, with people like professional riders and kind of brands within the sector, it very much applies to any, pretty much actually, I can't think of a business really that wouldn't benefit from retargeting. And for my sins, as well as the agency side of things, I also have a business which is all product based. So as part of that, we have a wholesale division selling to independent retailers, and then we've also got 2, and actually as of this week now, 3 different e-commerce websites. So as well as telling clients what to do and doing things for them, I'm also really aware on a kind of small business level about, when you don't have a 6-figure marketing budget, etc. And so I hope that tonight's going to be really practical. And again, if anybody's got any questions as you go through, I think Emma's kind of supervising the chat box, but please just ask away. I've tried to keep it relatively brief and not go too technical. But again, if you want me to explain something a little bit more or go back over it, just ask, and the kind of more interaction, the better. So I'll just dive really straight in, and kind of talking about retargeting, which I call legal stalking, and to be honest, I call it legal stalking for a reason, because I can't believe that we're actually allowed to do it as marketers. Here in the UK, we fall under part of the EU, which is Europe, which is kind of known for red tape, lots and lots of regulations for businesses. And certainly in the States and in Canada, they're getting far stricter about email marketing, etc. And this at the moment is a really sort of unregulated field in a way. And I think, again, it might be that the governments don't always realise the extent of what we can do. But certainly, to me, it's one of the most exciting things. I've been involved in the online world since, when did the first site go live? 2001, sort of late 2001, early 2002, so 13 years. And this, to me, after like things like AdWords first coming out, is one of the most exciting things that's happened. So what we're going to cover tonight is, first of all, what is retargeting? The second thing is why use it, and then the third part, how to use it. The third part, I'm not going to go into a tremendous amount of detail because it does depend a little bit on what platform you're using, that kind of thing. And it's something that within Emma's Facebook group, if you'd like a hand on your specific website, whether it's e-commerce or WordPress or anything like that, and we can talk about it more there. So sort of, again, just diving straight into what is it. Now, I love online shopping because despite having e-commerce sites, I like nothing better than to go home at night and carry on shopping. And I wanted to show you a really practical example. So this website here is, it's not one of my own, it's one of my favorite sort of high-end kind of luxury homeware kind of products, Amara. And so what you've got up here is their homepage, and I've obviously been browsing this site over the last month because every time I log in Facebook, which is what you can see at the bottom right hand side of the page, I see adverts for this website. And I don't see adverts just for the website, just saying Amara, you know, kind of lifestyle living. I see adverts for the specific products. So you can see here that I've got slightly expensive tasting cushions, and I'm craving the one that you can see there. And so you will have noticed this quite often if you shop on Amazon or Zappos, certainly within the UK, other people like Sports Direct, any really of the kind of big retailers are using this relentlessly. And actually, just out of interest, is there anyone here who's using retargeting at all at the moment in their site?
Actually, just a second, Christina. I think your presentation is frozen. I can still only see from the first slide. So are you gone further ahead?
Let me flip back. You should have a photograph of some Tommy Hilfiger bedding. Can you see that now?
No, I'm looking at a horse.
So are you seeing the right at the beginning, the me in a hat holding a palomino?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. What's the best way to sort this? So this is here we've got even tech geeks have technical problems. So, is that better?
Can you just go to a different page? Okay, yeah. Okay, I can see it there. Can you just talk there for a second? Sorry, I need to switch to you.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I can see it there now. For some reason, I couldn't there for a few minutes. So.
Perfect. Right, I'll go back to full screen. That's it. Can you see that now on a full screen? So Amara, you should have.
Hang on, now to talk again because when I speak, sorry, it switches to me.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'll keep talking. Hope Emma can see this. In fact, I'll tell you what, Emma, if you want to, I'll just open up Facebook on my other computer, and you can always message me through that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll do that because I'm going to mute myself now, because otherwise it's going to switch back to me, and people don't really want to look at me. So, but we can see the page now, and if people can just let us know at any point whether they can see the presentation or if you have any questions. So I'm going to mute myself now. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Oh, that's it. I'm back in control. I can say anything about Emma and she can't answer back. So go back to retargeting. So you will primarily noticed it on e-commerce sites. Certainly all the large sort of players in the industry are using it. And you can see some of them do it where you'll see more sort of brand imagery. Anyone who's familiar in the UK, Monica Vinader, which is a luxury jewelry brand. So it's the sort of price point is sort of £100 to about 3,000, so it's about $150 to $5,000. So they're not sort of couture, but they're kind of higher end than perhaps some of the high street stuff. They're very, very clever with their retargeting, but rather than retargeting specific products, they tend to show more sort of like brand-based advertising. So what we can see here is an example on Facebook. You'll also see them around the web. So the next slide here, which hopefully it's kind of flipped on through and you can all see, is a YouTube video. This is me catching up on some politics after the elections in the UK. And what you can see here is a retargeting advert based on the fact that I visited the website yourgifthorse.com, because that's one of my own sites. And yeah, so I think there's still some problems here with the slides. So let me just check in with Emma. Sorry, bear with me a second, guys.
Okay, Jess is just saying if it's the whole desktop, it works. Oh, she can't hear me.
I'm going to stop share and then go back to. Thank you, Jess. This is good. This is my first time with Click Webinar. Webinar Jam, as you can probably tell. So if I choose, so should I be choosing entire screen, Jess?
Yes.
All right, hopefully that's now working. So if I go back to my YouTube video, can you see that?
Perfect.
Awesome. So this is an example of retargeting that is appearing on a third-party website. In this case, it's YouTube, and it's bringing up a really irritating banner over the top of the video that you want to watch. But you'll also see them on other websites. If you go to typically newspaper websites, forums, etc., you see a lot of retargeting advertising. So that's what it is. In a kind of nutshell. Is that clear? Is there anyone who can't, who is either having problems still seeing things, or needs to, or would like me to talk a little bit more about what retargeting advertising actually is? Or are we cool?
Okay.
Right, everyone seems to be okay. So why use it, basically? Because all the tech and everything is wonderful and very clever, but why use this in your main business? The first reason, and it's going back to people who are in e-commerce, and the reason why I'm focusing on e-commerce right at the beginning is because e-commerce tends to have a much kind of tighter sales funnel, and people normally know their percentages better of visitors who turn into buyers, etc. Because if you run an e-commerce website, the thing you're obsessed with is the number of people who visit your site who end up giving you their credit card details before they leave. And the bad news is that it's often 98% of your visitors will come onto your site and go away again without shopping, which is horrid, basically, because you're paying good money to get them onto the site in the first place. They're browsing around. The stats, the sort of in the industry, that typically people will even go as far as adding things to cart, and 75% of the people who add something to cart on a e-commerce website won't continue with the purchase. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they aren't interested in buying from you. It's mainly because, which I'm sure Emma actually will know far more about this than me, buyer cycles, and to do with when people are researching products. So we're now, this time of year, we're very much just entering the start of the Christmas trading period, and lots of people are starting to think about what they're buying as gifts for Christmas, but they're not necessarily buying them right now. So they're spending time researching, they're budgeting, they're deciding, etc. And it might be then that they're going to make those purchases over the next 30 to 45 days, and be buying sort of around that Black Friday, the Thanksgiving period in the US, which is the real peak for online sales. In the UK, we don't really associate it with Thanksgiving as such, but it's the last Friday in November, and then the Monday that follows. And so what it allows you to do is really keep in touch with these people in a very sort of subtle way. So we had Maria right at the beginning asking about how she can reply to emails. And that's great. And you are, you're kind of communicating back and forth with leads, potential buyers, whatever kind of terminology in your business is that you call people who've not turned over and kind of handed you cash yet. But the main thing is that you need to be constantly nurturing them for them to turn from a lead into a buyer. And it can be difficult to do that through things like email and via the phone, because it can be too invasive. There's a limit to how many times you can email people in a kind of sales situation. It's certainly something that sometimes, especially women, can feel quite uncomfortable doing, and especially if you're selling a one-on-one service where it's very much personal emails flying back and forth rather than sort of more of a broadcast kind of newsletter based thing. And also, email marketing as a medium is getting less and less effective. The kind of trends, and noticing Emma and I, we've been sorting out our little kind of tech drama this evening via Facebook Messenger. Most people now, certainly the younger demographics, are communicating through things like WhatsApp, Snapchat, Facebook Messenger. They don't use email in a sort of personal kind of communication anymore. So they're already treating it as it's either stuff to do with work or it's just kind of relentless junk that comes through. So it's the kind of email inbox isn't very friendly to marketers anymore in the way it was a decade ago. And so, kind of the big reason for using retargeting is it's another way of keeping in touch with people. then sort of jumping on then to give us some examples for service-based people, because I don't want you guys to be feeling left out. The other sort of reason for using it is to laser focus your marketing. You can, with retargeting, show very specific messages to people depending on what they've looked at on your website. So going back to the slide that I was showing with Amara, that was an e-commerce site, and I'd been browsing cushions with a certain fabric manufacturer, and then they're showing me adverts specifically for those cushions. They're not showing me adverts for beds or for sofas, because I'm not not looking to buy any of those right now. It's just purely cushions that I was interested in last week. And for those of you who offer services, whether that be things like consulting or coaching or wedding planning, you'll have people who are interested in different things, and they will be visiting. Typically, you might have different areas on your website. So on my site, I offer, there's a variety of different services through the agency, things like search engine optimization, website design, social media management. Now, all those three have potentially got quite different customers. And if you are looking for help in improving your Facebook presence right now, you might not even have your own website. So me showing you adverts to encourage you to, purchase search engine optimization services it's a complete waste of my time, and it's potentially irritating you because you feel like you're seeing irrelevant ads. So by using retargeting, you can get very, very precise with the right message to the right person. And that to me is the kind of real essence of marketing, is finding, it's literally bringing together market, message, media. Media side is how you're delivering it, and in some way it's not irrelevant, but it's really getting the kind of right message to the market that is the key. And so with retargeting, it allows you to be very, very specific. To take it down to a really simplistic level, you might have 2 products on your website, and you might offer sofas and beds, and so there's no point showing sofa ads to people who are determined to buy beds, and vice versa. And that really is what I'm talking about by laser focusing, and I hope that's clear. The third reason for using it is to allow you to brand build. Now, I am not a huge fan of this phrase brand build, and I wrote it as I kind of was popping this presentation together earlier today. I wrote this and then thought, I hate that phrase, because I am 100% a fan of direct response marketing, which means that I like to spend my money and see a sort of instant increase in sales. I do not have Coca-Cola style marketing budgets to show adverts during the X Factor final to make sure that people think of my brand when they're browsing around the local supermarket. But in the context of retargeting, it allows you as a small business to really punch above your weight with your advertising, because the key is that you're not showing your adverts across the entire web. You're showing your adverts across a variety of websites, but only to people who've already visited your site in the first place. Now, those people quite quickly get the perception that you are potentially a lot bigger than you are, because they think, oh my gosh, they must be spending a lot of money on advertising, because everywhere I go, I see adverts for this particular website, this particular person, etc. And so when you've got your lead of people, so if you can take the kind of classic, you've got 100 people in a room, 5 of those at some networking event might be your sort of potentially interested in your services. You really want your adverts to be sort of targeted at those 5 people, instead of advertising to the 95% of people who aren't sort of interested. So I was talking right at the beginning that we've got a new e-commerce site that's launched this week. I'm throwing at the moment, the majority of the advertising budget on the run-up to Christmas is going on things like retargeting, so that I'm concentrating on, yes, there needs to be sending new people to the website in the first place so they're aware of it, but it's then building up awareness. It's lots of, so many different marketing quotes as to how many times, anything between 7 and 27 times someone needs to touch. So whether that be, a kind of physical, or we're talking touch that they're seeing adverts, etc., before they make a purchase, to, doing that in traditional things like print media, advertising 27 times in a weekly magazine is 6 months worth of advertising and thousands upon thousands of pounds. This is a much more realistic way to do it. And really, the kind of final reason for using it, which I've managed to not pop on my slide, is that it makes you a lot more money. You know, I am, as I said right at the beginning, I'm a marketer, but I'm also a business owner. And to me, I like to, you know, kind of feed £10 notes into my marketing and have more come out the other side. Using retargeting within existing ad campaigns. If you're doing adverts on Facebook at the moment, or Google via Google AdWords, or perhaps you're doing banner adverts on relevant industry websites, you might be doing you know, print publications, putting the retargeting in place can really dramatically bring the costs down of converting someone from a browser into a buyer, and it can make the difference from a campaign being totally unprofitable to making it, you know, pretty good for you, really. So let me kind of dive in to the next stage, which is, how do you actually go about doing this? Hopefully I've kind of convinced you that you should be giving it a try. So there's three main areas that you can use retargeting in at the moment. They're Google, Facebook, and third-party networks. Up until last week, Facebook was leading the field in this with the kind of features, and Google announced some kind of cool additions that I'll come back around to, that have sort of caught up with Facebook. And third-party networks are we'll have a very, very quick run through those. Brilliant. I'll just nod through. So first thing I'm going to talk about is Google. Now, Google is, most of you are hopefully familiar with Google. It's the world's #1 search engine. From a buying perspective, people are on Google very much in problem-solving mode. So to me, the kind of, whether we're talking about retargeting or not, the main thing, if you only come away from tonight with one thing in your head, learning the difference between Google and Facebook on a really basic level is the most, you know, to me, it's one of the most important things to be successful in digital marketing right now. So people go to Google because they have a problem and they're trying to get an answer to that specific problem. And that is, they literally go and type into that little white box exactly what they're looking for. And it might be from that they're trying to get a divorce, they're trying to find a drink driving lawyer, it might be that they're looking for an engagement present. So it's good and bad problems. But you know, Google is a problem-solving kind of place. And what happens is you get your normal Google search results, and you have at the top and to the right-hand side adverts. And I'm not going to talk about AdWords in any detail tonight, but if you'd like to know more, again, you know, kind of dive into Emma's Facebook group, and we can have a chat there, because they're a very complex topic in their own place. Now, Facebook is very much a social environment. So people are on Facebook to look at photos of friends and family and to watch stupid videos of cats and baby goats. They're not there to necessarily solve problems. So they're very much in I suppose in kind of fun off work mode. And if you think of kind of attention, you've got someone on Google is perhaps far more likely to be focused on in that they've got a problem that needs solving and their attention is on that at that time. So that's probably the time in the buying cycle where you've got the most attention of any buyer, but they're not necessarily going to buy there and then. So then switching over to Facebook, where they're in kind of a really relaxed mode, they're not thinking about problems, etc., and just subtly, constantly showing them adverts, it's just operating at different parts of the brain. So again, Emma is the queen of consumer psychology, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because you know, she's far more qualified to talk about it than me. But there's a subtle difference between the two. I like to use Google to drive traffic in the first place and retarget through Facebook, but you can also retarget through Google, and it's an effective place to do it as well. So what do I mean by retargeting through Google? Well, Google, you know, it's the reason why they're the #1 search engine in the world. They've got a team of geniuses at their HQ, and they very quickly worked out that there were a lot of people with websites of every topic under the sun, and people who have websites are always looking to monetize them. So what do I mean by that? It basically means they want to make money off their own sites. Now, in some cases, it might be that it's very direct. It's a website that you sell products from or services. But then there's other people who've got websites that are perhaps things like forums or blogs, and it's a little bit more subtle how they're making the money out of those sites. Anyone who has traffic to their website has a valuable commodity on their hands, and you can do a deal with Google, which allows Google to show adverts on your website, and then Google splits all the revenue with you 50-50. So it's a Google AdSense program, which again, I'm not going into massive detail about, but what you can do via retargeting is you have access to the Google Display Network. So confusingly, despite it being Google Display and retargeting, it is all still managed via Google AdWords. And there's a little section, which if I flip on through, we can see here that what you've got is, and this is a brand new, so the kind of pixels here were only put on about 4 days ago. So before I explain what a pixel is, I just wanted to show you here that this is, yours might look a little bit different. This is a this is Google, this is my client center, rather than just a bog standard Google AdWords admin, but the basics of it are the same. And what you've got is down the left hand side, where if you do any Google AdWords right now, you'll be really familiar with your campaign section, which is where you're actually managing adverts. What most people don't realize is you scroll down and you've got the shared library area, and you go into audiences. Now, what audiences allows you to do is pop a little bit of code on your website. It's not complicated to do. If you use WordPress and you've managed to put Google Analytics code on yourself, it's a really, it's a very similar process. If you've had a website designer build your site, etc., this really is a 5 to 10 minute job. Do not let someone bill you $500 for slapping a couple of lines of code on. Very naughty if they do. Once the code's in place, it then allows Google to start popping cookies on people's computers. So if you don't know what a cookie is, it is a small piece of code that runs through sort of internet browsers, and when you visited a website, it leaves a trail. So if anyone sort of read any of the kind of fairy tales as a child, you had Hansel and Gretel and their sort of breadcrumb through the woods, it's really similar to that. You're leaving a discrete trail across the internet where you're visiting. So slightly scary as a member of the public. As a marketer, absolutely golden, because what it means then is Google starts putting together these remarketing lists, and you can then run adverts to people who are just based in this list. So you are only going to show your adverts to people who have already visited your site. Now, what I mentioned on the previous slide is this doesn't cost any money. What I mean by that is it doesn't cost you any money to start building these lists. Google will charge you for showing adverts to them. But if you're brand new, or you've not got the budget right now, or even you've not got a product you're necessarily ready to sell, but you're busy blogging and putting lots of content out on your site, and working hard on social media to drive traffic, etc., and are really in business building mode, I'd strongly suggest you get your pixels code in place as soon as possible, because it doesn't cost you anything to start building up your audiences. And you can see here that they've very quickly got between two different sorts of lists, which I won't bore you with technical details of the difference between the two, but 1,500 to 1,700 people within literally kind of 3 or 4 days. Now, this is a brand new account, so what's going to happen this week is to have some further segmenting. So remember me talking sort of 3 or 4 slides back about how you can use retargeting to segment different things. So where you've got your nice big red button there that says plus remarketing list, you go and create a new list, and you can base it based on people going to certain pages. So again, going back to e-commerce, because it's a really nice simple kind of explanation. If you've got a website and you sell kind of cameras, you might have video cameras, kind of point and shoot compact cameras, and expensive DSLRs, and those are your 3 sort of overarching product categories, and you will want to show different adverts to those people, and that is kind of Google in a very, very brief nutshell, but it is nice and simple to use. I promise you, it's really not that scary once you dive in, and the one kind of takeaway about Google is get this code in place and start building your lists. Right, so just jumping on. Has anyone got any questions about Google before I whiz through onto Facebook? Perhaps if Emma, if you can see it and then you type them into Facebook chat, and it'll save us flicking back and forth between audio and screens. I'm just going to gulp some water down. I've been at a trade show launching this e-commerce brand and talking non-stop for 5 days. So for someone who spends most of their time in front of a laptop, it's been a slightly odd week, but very fun. I'll just see Emma typing away. All right, so I'm going to dive straight through now onto Facebook. And this is where we get not necessarily geeky. This is where I think rather than geeky, this is where it gets a little bit freaky. Because what Facebook allows you to do is build, within Facebook, they are called website custom audiences. And you can build those in exactly the same way as we're talking about Google, based on website visitors. So again, you pop a little bit of code that is supplied for you from Facebook via your Facebook ad account. So again, it doesn't cost anything to set up an ad account and get this code, but they will start charging you at the point where you want to show adverts. So if you've already using Facebook ads, then you've got this code there. You just probably don't know about it and need to copy and paste it onto your site. And if you don't have a Facebook ad account yet, then again, I'd highly recommend you go and set it up just to get this code on your site. And this works by majority of people are logged into Facebook most of the time when they're on a computer. And Facebook sort of relates you visiting a site and links that back to your Facebook account. So if I've gone and visited, let's see, I know Emma's daughter is kind of planning her Christmas shopping list already. So, and so if I'd gone and decided that I was going to buy her a model unicorn, then I would go back and I'd perhaps go to an Irish toy store online, and I would be kind of browsing around. I'd be logged in, even if I'm not actually got Facebook open within my browser, the chances are I'm still logged in the background, and Facebook can relate the two. And this, especially now that so many people are browsing on mobile devices, they're far less likely to log out of Facebook when they're on a mobile phone or a tablet versus perhaps a shared computer, whether that be at home or at work. So Facebook has actually almost got better tracking than Google when it comes to retargeting because of this. And I can see Emma's just sent a question through, so I will come to that shortly. I won't forget. Where Facebook then takes it a whole stage further is Facebook allows you to upload your email lists and also mobile phone numbers, or if you're an American, that's cell phone numbers of potential, leads and active customers into Facebook. So if you've been doing as you know, you can't spend any time online without people saying you need to focus on list building, you need to focus on building your email database, etc. Blah, blah, blah. And you're doing that initially so you can communicate with them by email, but this gives you another sneaky way to be kind of managing that relationship. So you take your email list, CSV, which is a kind of simple version of an Excel spreadsheet, upload it again through the Facebook ads area, and you create custom audiences based on email lists and mobile phone numbers. And you can imagine quite quickly how this is really, really powerful, especially for businesses who don't necessarily drive people to their website a lot. Another good example of this might be vets. So people they might look on a website when they're looking for a new vet for their animals in the first place, or they've perhaps got a specific query to like opening hours or something. But I can't remember the last time I went on the website for my vet, because when I want to see them, I just ring them up and make an appointment that way. They don't actually have online booking yet, which I am trying to nag them to do. But what they do have is massive database of generally mobile numbers, so cell numbers of clients. So this is a great way. We're heading into the winter here, just like with garages that are doing winter car checks, they're also marketing health checks for horses from the vets. And this would be a really great way if you were running an animal veterinary practice and you wanted to kind of push any particular promotion. I was talking about this with my brother, who has got a company in the car, so automotive industry. He gets the majority of his bookings via telephone, so for him, being able to use mobile numbers is awesome. And it allows you to build, again, these detailed lists. So once you've got these lists, you can segment them how you would like. So again, going right back to what we were talking about earlier in the session, you might want to, with your emails, be perhaps, if you've got a list that's perhaps, say, 10,000 people, you might have that 5,000 of them are leads, 5,000 of them are customers, and of those customers, perhaps 500 to 1,000 are your sort of VIP big spenders, and you might want to show different adverts to all three of those. Ideally, you would, to be honest. And so again, you've been carving up your lists. For those of you who are selling online with things like coaching, this is really powerful because what you've got on Facebook is sort of and/or sort of rules when you're building your lists. So you can say, people who visited this page on my website, but not that page. So if you're promoting an event, and I know the girls from Appetite for Seduction put on some really, really fab events, you might want to show adverts to people who've gone on an event page, but not hit the booking, like booking confirmation, because those are people who are more interested in attending an event than someone who has just hit perhaps the homepage of your site, because they've bothered to browse around and they've read, they're looking at a specific event. Again, Christmas, there might be something themed with that, sort of romantic kind of holiday dinner ideas, etc. But they've not quite bitten the bullet yet and handed over their card details and booked. And, those people are, for every 100 people who are visiting your website, the 5 to 10 who are floating around, actually browsing through the pages. And this is very specific to every single site. You guys know your customers far better than I do. And it's every company has got its own sort of like buying journey. So it's knowing where that is. But this allows you to do some really, really powerful stuff. So I'm just going to nip over and look at the question. Saying, can you build your target audience like on Facebook with demographics or just with a retargeting code? So I think that's going back, that's the question about Google. And yes, you can build a target audience with demographics, but that comes under Google Display. That isn't retargeting. So that's a great example of what you might do in the first place, where you're actively going out looking for new customers, and you perhaps know that you've got, let's do a local restaurant example. So you've been working really hard on building up your business. You've got a restaurant that is 75% full. You've perhaps got customers to fill in little feedback forms on tables, etc. So you know that the kind of best sort of customer for you is perhaps between 35 and 55. They live within a 10-mile radius. It perhaps is primarily the women who do the booking, etc. And what you do is you just want to find more of those, and you can use that sort of demographic targeting on Facebook and on Google, but you're using that to find new people in the first place. Where the retargeting would kick in is once they've sort of expressed their interest by visiting your site, by phoning you up, by signing up perhaps with a restaurant. You might have something on your website that offers them a free bottle of wine with their first meal, and you provide them with a voucher. To get the voucher, they have to hand you their email address, which then means you can retarget them through Facebook. Now, what I was talking about with Google upping their game, they announced last week at the big Ad Age conference in New York that you can also now build retargeting email lists within Google. Now, I'll be totally honest and fess up that this was only launched last week. I've been smack bang in the middle of a big e-commerce launch and I haven't tested it yet. I will know more by the end of next week, once we've run some live tests for 10 days or so, how it's comparing on Facebook versus Google. My gut feel is it should be similar. Let's see what's... Then the third sort of part of retargeting that I've not talked about are third-party ad networks. I wouldn't get too worried about those unless you've got a decent amount of traffic on your site or a big ad budget. And it's just a way to make sure that you can get your retargeting ads shown across even more websites. Not every web publisher in the world has jumped into bed with Google as part of their sort of affiliate network. So if you've got a big ad budget and you want absolutely blanket coverage, you can use websites like Perfect Audience, AdRoll, etc. As a kind of way of just getting your stuff out even wider. But I don't want to overcomplicate things. And I would say that the big two to concentrate on are Facebook and Google. So that is the bulk of the kind of technical chat for this evening. I suppose if I was going to give you sort of three sort of things to do is, one, understand the difference between Facebook and Google in terms of kind of buyer sort of mentality when they're there. And the second, well, it kind of two in one point, is get this code on your website as soon as you possibly can, even if you're not in the position to start advertising right away. You need to, audiences need to be a certain size to be able to get a kind of decent reach of any sort of ad campaign. I think it's Facebook will start showing with less than 20. You don't get detailed audience demographics until you've got over 1,000. And really, if your audience is much less than 1,000 on either, the kind of effort to build and launch ad campaigns versus the kind of return is kind of fairly negligible. So I'd get this code in place as soon as you possibly can, even if you find the tech a bit scary, even if you're not sure how you're then going to build the ads, etc. afterwards. What you can be doing in the meantime is getting this up and running. What we've got actually at the very bottom of the slide here is a call out of one of my Facebook ad campaigns from last month, and this was a webinar. And this is just showing here some of the stats and the tracking, and you can kind of see here that the one at the very bottom, I'm relentlessly website visitor retargeting. It's very difficult to visit one of my websites and not then be bombarded around the web for eternity. We've got a little phrase in the office which is buy or die. It's the only way you can get off either email lists or retargeting. It's a little bit of a joke because we do comply with all the regulations. You can mute adverts through Google, through Facebook. You can unsubscribe from our list. But our philosophy is very much that if someone has expressed an interest in your product right at the beginning, it's your job to then convert them into a buyer, not leaving them out in the wilderness doing it by themselves. I'm not an aggressive sort of secondhand car salesperson. You can do this very subtly, you can do it very elegantly, and really the main reason to do it is it will put a lot more money in your bank account between now and Christmas 2015. So that's me pretty much kind of wrapped up. Sorry, Emma's saying it's hard to see the figures here. It's just me showing really that I'm using it, that once someone has visited a website, I'm then encouraging them to go and like my Facebook page, just as a kind of bringing more and more touch points in. My perfect situation is that I've got someone's email address and they're receiving email newsletters from me. They've visited my website, so they're seeing adverts from me on Google. They're seeing it across the Google display network, so they're on YouTube watching videos of cats doing funny things and up pop adverts. They go on to Facebook to have a chat with their friends and they see adverts. I've uploaded their email addresses into Facebook and their mobile numbers, and so I'm just making sure that in kind of terms of my sales funnel, I'm trying to reduce as many leak points as possible. So if someone decides not to buy, that's absolutely fine, but they're not buying because they've forgotten I've existed, and that is really the key. It's also why I'm being quite discreet and not bombarding you guys and telling you to go and sign up for my list, because unless you're a horse business, frankly, at the moment, I've not got very much to sell you, and it's a waste of my money to show adverts to you guys. And so that's me sort of pretty much done. And I really encourage you that if you've got questions about this, we've got a bit more time at the end here. Unless Emma's going to boot me off straight away to do some Q&A, but also jump into her Facebook group, ask questions. I'm sort of fairly office bound, and for the next couple of weeks, so I will try my best to answer your Q&As. So we've got the first question popped up. So is there a different code for each page of the website? E.g. people who've clicked book now, or people who've looked at the gift certificate page? No, there isn't a different code. So you have to do it off primarily website URLs. So your website URL is your website address. So it would be perhaps yourwebsite.com/whatever. So it's really good to know about this stuff, because it really influences how you plan out the navigation of your site. And if you can start getting some sort of common shorthand, and it becomes then very simple once you've got the rules in place. So if I'm writing anything on my own website that's to do with websites, whether that be a blog or a more of a sort of informational page, the URL always mentions website, and that then puts you in a certain tracking list. You might get confused. There is something else within Facebook called conversion pixels, which allows you the same as you can use within Google AdWords, which allows you to track people taking specific actions. So again, the most simple example of that would be an e-commerce website where someone has completed a checkout, and you want to see, for every £100 that you've spent on that particular AdWords campaign, how many sales have resulted, how much is it costing you to convert someone, etc. And those are conversion pixels. But what we're talking about here is the retargeting pixel, and that sits across the entire website. And it's up to you then how you structure your lists. You'd always have your sort of one master list, and then it's up to you to decide. And it's really a case of knowing your buying cycle well. You can do it by web pages visited. And it might be people who visited this page but not that page, which is a great example here, where people who've visited a page but not clicked now, or someone who's looked at a gift certificate page, they're all giving you clues in their behaviour about what they're actually thinking about doing on your site. But it also might be time-based, so you can have lists. People stay in these lists for up to 6 months is the maximum at the moment on both Google and Facebook. Now, that's not automatic. You will see that your numbers move up and down, and what can happen is when people clear the cookies on their computer, or they get a brand new computer or phone, etc., they then kind of fall out of your retargeting funnel. But generally it might be that someone who has visited within the last 30 days is far more likely to convert for you than someone who visited 5 months ago. And again, that's very specific to sort of every business. So it comes back, right, I know I keep on saying knowing your own buying cycle. If you're not sure about your buying cycle, the group would be a great place to sort of ask questions. For me, I love, despite being kind of a digital nut, I'm also a complete caffeine addict, so I love nothing more than sitting down in a nice coffee shop with a big blank A3 sketch pad and starting to work out all this sort of thing. Certainly for me, before any website is built internally, it's all about, we build things very backwards actually. We work out what our ad campaigns are going to be, which then dictates what pages we need on the site, how we're naming them, etc. Before we get to the kind of stage of what content's actually been written, everything's put into, so silos would be the kind of techie term, but it basically means just grouping things into relevant pages. So I'm sorry, that's a bit of a long answer to a short question, but so no, there isn't different code. You need to use your URLs to kind of sort it out. So has anyone else got any questions?
We're just waiting for a few people to come back now and ask us some questions. Thank you so much, Christina, for all that. I mean, that's absolutely mind-blowing information. Thanks a million. One thing there's a couple of things I'd like to point out that you're kind of talking about for the last while. One of them is, I think, just what you were just saying there, is that the sales aspect of a website is really important, and I think you've put an emphasis on that this evening. I like the way you say you're building a website backwards, but in effect, is that not the way it should be, where there is, you're looking at, the whole flow of when a person comes to your website. Where do they go? Where do they buy? What do they think? Are they leaving it at a certain point? Do you need to upgrade your content, your pictures, your product? What is it? And to be really very aware of all that. So I'm delighted you mentioned that, because it's something I think it's kind of been forgotten about in general terms in the online world in any case. I don't know if you feel that way, Christina, or...
Yeah, very much so. And I know we've got at least one graphic designer on the call, so I hope I'm not going to offend you too much. But to me, I'd always prefer to have a website that makes me a lot of money and isn't the prettiest, versus one that is, so kind of gorgeous graphically, but doesn't use any of this sort of retargeting, and that the kind of content isn't set up in a way that allows you to filter out customers, etc. I know that Jolene was with us over in New York, and there's a presentation there from Gary Nealon. I think if you're looking for a website that's a really, really, really good example of a site that very, very cleverly segments people quite quickly, and he will quite openly say that retargeting has made a massive difference to his cost per sale. And once you start kind of tuning into this and you start looking at sites, and for the people who are doing this, you see, oh yeah, this is what they're actually doing, and it's a little bit like people at a live event and you're getting them into different queues, and to me the magic is that you can do it online, and that the tech's available to small business. We can do what we can compete against the big boys with this stuff. And so I'd really encourage you to dive in and think, the main thing is, like Emma was saying, it really is knowing your customer. But hopefully that's a good thing, because most of the small business owners I speak to will always normally feel, well, certainly the successful ones, they're far more comfortable about knowing who their customers are than they perhaps are about tech and pixels and little lines of code everywhere. And that's actually your advantage. The tech side of this isn't difficult to master. But what can be harder is knowing very intimately who your customer is, how they buy, and how you can sort of best help kind of guide them along the way. And generally, small business owners are better at that because you spend more time with your customers.
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. And it's so important to know that, isn't it? Christina, in terms of the buying behavior and how they view it and how they know that, how your customers operate from and what platforms they're on and how you can target them, as you've spoken about this evening. So, I mean, this is a fantastic presentation. One or two people are asking, is there a replay? And yes, there is a replay. It will be going out tomorrow. I just need to edit it slightly because we went on a bit earlier this morning, or earlier this evening, I should say. And we might need to edit out our little chat beforehand. Christina, what do you reckon? So, but there doesn't seem to be any questions coming through. Now, there is a facility actually to speak. I've never done this before, but if somebody would like to speak and ask a question, I will allow you to do that. I haven't done it before, so bear with me in relation to that. But if you would like to speak, you can just, say it in the chat there and I can allow you to speak. But I'm assuming nobody has any questions, as none are coming through. I think you gave an awesome presentation and you covered quite a lot. And I would say many people will be on the replay tomorrow, just stopping it and starting it and getting the gems of wisdom that you've shared, Christina. And I like your Hansel and Gretel analogy. It kind of really, it's so true actually, because customers are leaving clues all over the place, and oftentimes people are completely overlooking it. And I meet that with clients all the time, where they're trying to find clients in a place where they're not, and yet there's people nearly queuing out the door somewhere else. And it's just to be aware of that, and particularly in the online world. And as Christina says, most small business owners are really au fait with their customers and their life, their buying cycles and everything. So utilize that knowledge, and if you're not sure, ask somebody in terms of retargeting and Google Analytics and whatnot. So yeah, so
awesome. Well, okay. It's been really fun. Thank you very much for inviting me along and allowing me to geek out for an hour.
No problem. Thank you very much. It's very late, and I know you've been at that trade show for a couple of days, and you must be absolutely knackered. So thank you for doing it today. So I think you need a glass of champagne now, perhaps, and wind down after a very long week. And thank you very much. There's plenty of people coming on board in the chat to thank you. Alice says thank you. Martina says thank you. Jess. Do you offer coaching, Christine? So do you offer coaching, Christine? Jess is asking.
Yeah, I do. It's again, I think I've got a PDF and I will pop a link to it in the group if you're okay with that. It's something I'm contemplating, turning this into perhaps a slightly longer course with some really practical hands-on help, because popping the code on, as I said, is a really quick job, the kind of structuring stuff, etc. But kind of for me, the feedback's really useful. I've been amazed. I was at the trade show that Emma mentioned, which is, it's a very big live event in the UK, owned by a big event company who put multiple stuff on. They're not doing this stuff. As I browse around the web, because I've got specific plugins on my browser, because I am a geek, I can see if people are doing this or not. And certainly within the horse industry, such a tiny percentage are, even some of the very big companies, and generally even outside the, as I browse around the web. So there's a massive opportunity here before the rest of the world kind of catches on. Yeah. So if you really feel like you missed out jumping on the sort of beginning of Facebook advertising or the beginning of Google AdWords when things were really cheap and you could get clicks for, kind of 10, 5 pence on, kind of competitive keywords that you now have to pay £1, £2, £3 for. It's a really, really golden opportunity, and I'm just really massively excited about it. So
it's amazing. It really is. I mean, I can't believe it. And even just listening to you this evening, it's amazing, like the opportunities that are there. And I think for all of us, and even actually in advertising this particular webinar, it's been amazing that most people, I don't think, even understood what retargeting was, because I was trying to explain it in the text and not everybody got it. And some people signed up, I think, because they know me, or whatever the case is, and aren't on the call tonight perhaps for various reasons, and hopefully we'll look at the replay. But it's really because they don't understand the opportunities within this, and it's fantastic for us to hear it this evening. So thank you so much, Christina. I really appreciate you coming on board, and everybody's thanking you here in the chat. So thank you from everyone, and thank you from me as well.
Perfect. Right. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone.
And you. Okay.